Canada is actually doing something good for a change. Canada's involvement with space historically has been okay, but now Canada is trying to get more involved with the actual space race, particularly launching rockets from Canada on our east coast up into space for a few different reasons. One is Canada doesn't want and will not, our government will never use Starlink for the government because it could be viewed as a breach of national security, transmitting, encrypted patients' files, medical files, or just secured government stuff across, in a foreign system. And so for that reason, Canada is building its own kind of a Starlink called Telesat or something of the sort. So one, we're trying to have our own Starlink type of network, and two, we're trying to launch rockets into outer space. And it's kind of interesting. At least the rocket launch part is. Starlink, I can understand as an ex-government employee, worked with the military, how that could be viewed as a security risk, but then I also use Starlink for this. So I don't know. I have a bias. I like Starlink, and it's also going to be way more affordable than what Canada could ever produce. Then you've got Trump's tariffs. What does that mean for Canada? What does that mean for Canada moving forward? Can Mark Carney even kind of handle what's going to happen once Parliament resumes against Pierre Poilievre? And then also the craziest part of this video is Finland, which is a NATO country, is preparing to go to war against Russia. So there's good stuff, there's bad stuff, and there's definitely ugly stuff. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We're going to kickstart things with NATO getting ready to go to war with Russia, because if Finland does, then that pulls in a whole whack of other NATO countries, but then also Russia would be officially at war with NATO, and then there's a whole other series of nuclear bomb threats that we have to worry about. So it's kind of a big deal. Here we go.
We keep hearing about how tensions around the world are ratcheting up. There's war in Europe, and superpowers are flexing their military muscle. One place where people are very aware of this? Here in Finland. Finland shares a 1,300-kilometer-long border with Russia, NATO's longest with Russia since Finland joined the military alliance 2 years ago. Now, 2 years later, Finns are more straightforward than ever about the threat that they see just beyond that fence.
We have to take it very, very seriously, this threat that Russia is posing, and simply I think we owe it to our children and our grandchildren that we step up now significantly.
But in this country, defense and security go far beyond the army and the border. There's a concept here called comprehensive security.
The very foundations of our security are resting on the fact that the individual citizens are keenly aware of the need for security and defense and are prepared to do their share.
One is for water. Every level in this society works with preparedness. We talk about situation disturbances in the society. We don't talk about necessarily the war at all. We talk about power outage, water outage, normal situations that can happen any day.
Finns know where their nearest bomb shelters are. They have enough food and water to survive at home for 72 hours on their own, and many have iodine pills ready to go in case of a nuclear attack.
And when we get the message from the government or the military, like we really need to seriously start preparing, then we just change the message like, well, now you really need to have the crap back and be ready that you know where your shelter is.
Comprehensive security is baked into government legislation, but also deeply embedded in the Finnish mindset, thanks to history and geography. Only a couple of generations ago, next-door neighbor Russia waged war on Finland. But it's that sense that everyone has a role to play, that everyone has a stake in the security of their country that could be worthwhile for allies like Canada to pay attention to.
Yeah, this is going to be crazy. Looking for allies like Canada to pay attention to. I don't like that. I don't like when Canada gets mentioned in terms of conflict with other countries like Russia or Gaza or Israel or Iran or you name it. I mean, we're a peacekeeping country. I personally would like to see it that way. I don't want a draft to happen. I don't want us to go to war. I just want us to mind our own damn business. And Canada's doing anything but that. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments about that. Because if NATO does step foot into that war, that's going to open up a whole whack of worms that I'm ready for the rockets to take us to another planet. I'm just ready for that. Now let's take a look at rockets made in Canada that are potentially going to do that exact thing. This company right here, Nord Space, they had a launch attempt, and I watched it. It was the other week, but they failed on their engine igniter. So here's the CEO to talk about that.
We got to the absolute last step. We pressed the button, ready for launch. 70 pages of checklists and all of that, hours and hours of work. And it looks like it might have been like a small software glitch or something related to us detecting a misfire in the ignition system and kind of automatically safing the system. So probably like most things, a small thing to fix, but we're at the end of our launch window for now. So it's going to take a couple of days before we're back on the pad. You have to have a really thick skin working in this kind of business. So, I don't go in with any specific expectations. This isn't really a failure. It's just, if we had another launch window tomorrow, we would have probably tried again. And just like anything, you try a couple times and then you end up finding the success at the end of it. So, probably a couple minutes of disappointment, but we're already now thinking about how to just tweak it, get back on the pad, move on. We have a lot of other projects that we need to develop as well. So it's really important for us to figure out what this is, get off the pad, and move on.
So they're going to be launching again sometime this month in September. What stopped them was poor weather and technical difficulties, delayed with the first attempts at launching from St. Lawrence throughout last week. Nordspace CEO says the company expects to try again later this month. I watched it live on a live stream. It was really cool. I often do that with SpaceX, like the last big guy, Stars, SpaceX, whatever, the really big one that's like a 20 or 30 story building. I watched that one. I put it on the TV, and the family and I just kind of gathered around and watched it. Meanwhile, I have a buddy who's down in Texas who watched it live, who sent me the videos from his phone. And to that I say, man, that's freaking cool. I wish one day I could do that. I'd actually love to go down to Texas to watch launches, but also just to go down to Texas because Texas just seems better than Canada most days. Now let's take a look at what's going on with President Trump, Mark Carney, and these ongoing tariffs, because it's about to get a lot worse with the up and coming House of Commons, what I call House of Canada, to resume. Parliament opens up. We get back into the debates. Honorable Mr. Speaker, Prime Minister, blah, 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 blah. What are we going to expect? Well, what we expected with Pierre Poilievre is what we got. Justin Trudeau feeling so burnt out, so defeated, so exposed that he quite literally resigned. Like, if Pierre Poilievre was not the leader of the opposition, I don't think that Trudeau would have resigned. But Pierre quite literally got Trudeau to resign. Now, in hindsight, maybe we should have stretched it out a little bit longer so that we could have had a federal election with Trudeau, so that we could have all had the closure that not only we wanted but deserves. But it is what it is, and we can't change the past now. But now we have something new to look forward to. Pierre Poilievre and, I almost said Justin Trudeau, and Mark Carney. So what does this look like moving forward? Well, Carney is still dealing with Trump, and Pierre's going to be talking a lot of shit about it. So let's have a look.
Joining me now is CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair. Good to see you, Tom. Thanks for being here.
Good to be with you, Renee.
So what do you make of the court ruling that most of President Trump's tariffs are illegal?
It's extremely important. This is pure Trump. He does something that all the advisors around him, all of the legal opinions in the government would have said, boss, you're overstepping your bounds. You're doing something that only Congress can do. Push that aside, come up with all these tariffs. They've been ruled illegal, but as was just said in the lead up to our talk, Renee, there are any number of ways that Trump can use the same tactics he's used in business to slow everything down. He'll keep appealing, he'll keep attacking the decision makers, he'll keep saying that he's right, and anybody goes against his illegal decision, they're the ones who are going to be causing chaos and trouble for the United States. Pure Trump. Same tactics. We've seen it time and again. But it is a huge problem for businesses because, of course, in the meantime, those tariffs continue. With regard to...
It won't ever be deemed illegal. Like, even though a judge classified it for a second as illegal, it'll never be blocked. His tariffs are here to stay. And when there's a CUSMA review, which is scheduled for 2026, and in theory, it could happen at any moment, it'll just keep happening. It'll keep happening. It'll keep getting worse until Canada submits to America in a way that satisfies Trump. That just is what it is.
The de minimis tariffs, this is, we're all practicing our Latin, that actually comes out of a longer expression that translates as, look, the law doesn't care for trifling things. The law is there for big things. So this is why it was set, because if at some point, Renee, it costs you more in Border Patrol agents and people going through the packages and checking that it's been done, then it's a losing proposition. You don't actually take in anything on those tariffs. The fentanyl argument, which is one that they serve up with different sauces depending on the week, is just goofy because they're going to maintain de minimis for anything sent by an individual that's valued at under $100. So basically what they're trying to say is if you're sending a Christmas present to your Aunt Martha in Maine, no problem. It's, it's going to get through the border free. But that takes away their own argument about fentanyl because, of course, it could have just as easily been in that tariff-free package. And it's not the fact that it's got a tariff that means you've actually been able to open it and find out whether it's got fentanyl. But fentanyl comes up time and again because the Americans have this exemption where they get to say if it affects national security, they can breach the rules, for example, of the Canada, U.S., Mexico trade deal. So they've always kept for themselves that escape clause for anything that they do at the border as long as they can affirm that it's due to national issues. So they do the same thing with softwood lumber. They say, no, this has become a question of national security for the United States. In Trump's first term, he did the same thing on steel. He brought in steel tariffs. Now, eventually they were negotiated away. But the key word here is chaos. It is pure chaos, havoc for the small businesses with regard to de minimis, and for the bigger businesses who simply don't know which way this thing is going to turn.
Now, the de minimis exemption will...
And you're going to see more of this, right? That's exactly the truth, is that President Trump can literally just say, well, no, the tariffs are important because of national security. He is going to do that on whatever, whenever he wants. He learned a lot from his first term, that when you play the game by the book, you're probably going to get a little bit screwed. So Trump is doing whatever he needs to get done in order to fix America. He's not worried about Canada. He doesn't care about Canada. And if he literally bankrupts us and tramples us, that doesn't matter because his goal is to be America first. That was made loud and clear. Canada's role in this should be that of working with America, working with Trump. We have bigger threats than America or even Trump, which I don't view as a threat at all. We have the real world out there. We've got China, we've got Russia, we've got freaking any Middle Eastern country. We have so many actual threats out there to us that want to blow us up. And there's a rising coalition of BRICS that is, working hard to overtake American superpower dominance and also NATO. And we should be working with America to expand military presence here in Canada because Canada can't even respond to anything on the East Coast, on the West Coast, up north. We're just lacking. We don't even have submarines that float properly. We don't even have nuclear powered submarines. We got diesel. Like, we're just so archaic. We're living in the Stone Ages. We shouldn't be fighting America to, hey, you can't do that to us. That's not fair. We got our sovereignty. We should be saying, hey, America, we realize that you're the good guys. Over there's the bad guys. What can we do to make sure that we, the good guys, win and stay winning? That's the only conversation that should have ever been had. Not we're going to fight you. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. No. And it does actually mean in some instances that Canada can keep its sovereignty. It doesn't have to be the 51st state or whatever, even though it would be kind of nice to have our Canadian dollar or snow pesos swapped out for US dollars, dollar for dollar. I'm sure something like that would happen, but nope. Elitism in Canada is strong, where we pride ourselves on not being American instead of being proud Canadian. It's bizarre. I don't agree with it.
Likely come up during Canada's negotiations with the U.S. With this ruling now from the court that Trump's tariffs are illegal, or most of them are illegal, how do you think this will all affect those ongoing negotiations between Canada and the U.S.?
Well, sometimes when things are right on balance and you think you're just about to negotiate, something like this can be to the advantage of Canada. We can sit down with the Americans and say, we're not going to hide behind a court ruling. We're going to put in place a deal that we will respect and that you will respect, and here are the contours of that deal. I believe that it can be a bit of a bargaining advantage, but it doesn't take away the fact that Trump is always going to be Trump. Lutnick is very much like Trump. They speak every single day about these issues. Trump thinks that he's a genius who's the only one who's figured out that tariffs are the best thing in the world. We've spent generations since the Second World War removing tariffs, making trade easier, and the whole world, including the US, including Canada, has gotten richer as a result. But Trump's decided that it can always go one way towards the United States, and there'll be nothing to pay for that. He's learning that his courts don't agree with him, and he's learning that his trading partners don't agree with him.
So what is the wisest move for Canada? Is it to wait to make a deal until this goes through the Supreme Court, or is that just going to take forever? Are we wiser to make a deal while this ruling is appealed?
I think it's the latter, because Canada, of course, wants a deal with the United States, and our businesses, more than anything else, want certainty, predictability, clarity. And that's why the fog of the threats of Trump and what's going to be covered, what's not going to be covered, that's the disaster for business people. You know, tell us that it's going to be 3% here and 18% there, we'll deal with it. We'll pass it on to our customers in the U.S., we'll deal with it. But we can't every single week be dancing on one foot and then dancing on the other foot and trying to guess which way it's going to go. So I think that there is an opportunity here. And as some of the experts you spoke with earlier were saying, look, the United States Supreme Court is so firmly on the side of Trump, if they realize they're going to have to rule that the tariffs are illegal, it won't be retroactive. So they're going to hold off on that ruling as long as possible. So they can help Trump by giving rulings that just, their decisions, their judgments have just been outrageous in terms of their bias in favor of Trump. On this one, I think it's almost impossible without the Supreme Court losing all credibility for them to agree with Trump. So stalling it is a good tactic. We should move in. During that time, it would be a good idea for us to get a signature on a piece of paper with the Americans that will allow us to move forward, even though some of the tariffs might later be declared illegal, because that's a very uncertain result at a very uncertain time in the future. We just don't know.
All right, Tom, we'll have to leave it there. Great chatting with you.
I can tell you with like 95% certainty that the tariffs will not be deemed illegal. They will be reversed by Trump and they will stay on. And it's funny because the tariffs, even though they're kind of in limbo right now in the legal system where it's been deemed illegal but is being appealed immediately by Trump and the White House, the tariffs are still in effect until a full decision is made. So it's not like the tariffs have been lifted or paused. It's still all in effect. And it's just a winning situation for Trump. Trump is a successful businessman. He was loved and adored by the media and by the world until he decided to run in politics. And that's when the entire industry, the entire complex, everything, the machine in North America turned against him. And he's been talking about tariffs since day one. Go back 30 years ago in interviews. Trump was pro-tariffs, and he's doing it now. And it's unfortunately coming at our expense and the rest of the world, but at you and I's expense if you're in Canada watching this, because our liberal government is not wanting to work with America. Again, bigger threats out there than America or Trump, which I don't even view as a threat. They're our brothers and sisters, our neighbors. We fought and bled in wars together. We share like the same land. Like, it's incredible how intertwined Canada and America and Americans and Canadians truly are. And so putting up this this fight against America when we should be worried about other bad people across the world is very, very bizarre and kind of concerning. Very, very concerning. Anyways, that's where we're going to end the video. I'd love to know where you guys stand on that. And what do you think is going to happen with Finland? Do you think Finland is actually going to go to war with Russia? Because if that happens, you can bet your ass the rest of NATO is also going to be going.